All right, sweet. Podcast episode 3.
Episode 3.
Here we are. After action report, did some grappling, went to 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, tried to follow your advice, did not realize that it was a rubber guard class. I thought it was an open mat, but it was good because I learned the technique and I trained the technique, but then we got to roll.
Yeah.
And, all right, so I was rolling, and I got to roll with the teacher too. This was better because he was good. Okay, so, but what did I learn? I still don't understand the value of the underhooks in a sense, but what I did start to do, so like when I'm rolling, right, okay, you train martial arts, I train a fuck ton. We both trained a lot of martial arts, so there's that part. When the shit hits the fan, or what, like in a technical setting is one thing, but then when I'm rolling, a lot of other concerns start to occur rapidly, of course, and then I had to remember to stay on the basics that you told me, like do not give up your armpits, for one, do not let them put you flat on your back, so, and then the taking the pants off, I did that one in the middle. And to clarify, what that means is if somebody's trying to pass your guard, it's like a really tenacious pair of pants that is like climbing up your body, and you have to like take the pants off so they fucking reclaim the guard, which makes sense.
It's good to clarify that one.
Yeah, because it just doesn't make any sense. So what I noticed was there were a few times where they would, so I'm working with my awareness, right? They would dive an arm under, and I noticed that I was not aware, like say this is me going for your arm, like from here to here, I'm not doing anything. And then I'm only doing something like when their hand is getting here, and or I'm only noticing that they've attained this position after they're in it. And so it got me thinking about the possibility of being able to take action before there's a problem, because I think what the good guys do, and like this is what I do say in boxing, is like somebody can move and I know the implications of that movement before they're doing it. Like, oh, there's that punch. Before they've thrown the punch, I'm relating to what's happened before. And when I went with the teacher, it's like they know the outcome before. They know what's coming, not what's happening, but what's about to happen. And so I feel like that's like one of the main things to get into with skill is like in terms of martial fighting stuff. Like if you can know what's about to happen and relate to that, then that's the domain where the good guys are operating, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the domain where everyone's operating when they're getting good at
when they're good.
Physical. Yeah. How was your success at, let's break it down, like, how was your success at not giving away underhooks?
I would say it's pretty good. I need a lot of more work, though, because I kept giving them up, and then, like I said, I would realize after the fact, oh, they've got an underhook. Huh, that's a pain in the ass. And then I would start fighting them on the underhook. You see, so then that's a switch for me. So success-wise, I was pretty good, and definitely not 100% because obviously they kept getting them. But then the mindset switch from rather than worrying about other things, I was focused in this one area, and I think it made a difference. It's like, okay, where are my hands going now? What am I giving up now? And that seemed to shut them down from progressing. But success-wise, a little bit better than what I would have done if I wasn't focused on it. And I also feel like I don't understand, and what I mean by understand is like, you know, that bodily understanding when you really get something in a martial context, you know it. I don't know underhooks. I know the thinking about them, but knowing them, I don't feel like I know them.
I think that to start out with what I was talking about with the no underhooks thing, if you look at Pritt Mickelson is a guy who's developing something called defensive BJJ. and he's focused exclusively for some years now on defending every kind of submission you can possibly defend with as little movement as possible. So basically what he tries to find are what he calls 0 points, which are positions that you can assume with your body that pretty much are as impenetrable as possible, physically,
And Britt
mechanically.
Mickelson is with BJJ Globetrotters.
He does a lot of work with them, but he's also done work with BJJ Fanatics. I guess everybody's done work with BJJ Fanatics, and
we
some
can
other
post
people
links
too.
for that as a reminder. We can post links in the description for that. Okay.
Yeah, it's. I think he also, if you ever see the podcast Armchair Violence, there's a guy who does some really interesting commentary on a wide variety of martial arts and combat sport related topics. And he mentions Britt Mickelson too in a talk that he's doing about systems. And he mentions that systems are different than martial arts in that a system has a clear objective within a combat sport or a martial arts. So for example, maybe there's a system that is about obtaining half guard from passing the guard, like no matter how you pass the guard, you obtain half guard, or a system for putting someone on the ground from a given clinch or something like that. And or a system of back attacks once you've actually taken the back. Okay, and most systems that are found in mixed martial arts are found on the attack portions of grappling sports. And the reason for that is that with a system, you can pose a dilemma wherein your opponent has two options and they both suck. So you pose not a problem, because a problem can have a solution or multiple solutions. You don't want to pose problems, you want to pose dilemmas. And so dilemmas are advantageous because you're putting your opponent into a situation where there are no good options and they have to try to figure out which is the better, which is the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
Similar to chess, when you fork two pieces, you have a knight that's attacking the king and the queen at the same time. Well, damn it, you've got to move the king, so you take the queen.
Right, so you force a situation.
Exactly.
Because
I think you operate out of a similar principle at times when you're doing Qing Shin at a high level, but I think you know a lot more about that than me. With grappling, it has the unique quality of being a very mechanical endeavor. So the kind of control that you put on your opponent once you're grappling is not the same kind of control that you use when you're boxing. When you're boxing, you can control the fight with angle, movement, timing, distance, and a relationship in space. But you're not touching the person except at key moments.
Yeah.
Okay? But in a grapple, you are actually physically connected to them such that they find it extremely difficult to move even if they want to.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a different quality. And so getting back to what Britt Mickelson was doing, and to your point, you were talking about giving up the underhooks. And where I saw that point most clearly illustrated or discussed, both, was with Britt Mickelson and his system of defensive grappling. Systems are usually on the offense. They're not usually on the defense, because defensive solutions to problems are kind of more open. It's like somebody's putting a problem on you and you might have multiple ways of getting out. For example, if you are in someone's side control, you could try to reestablish guard. You could try to flip them over. You could try to go to turtle and stand up, right? So there's like three possibilities. And in coming up with his systems of defensive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he's establishing 0 points, and they start out extremely mechanical. They do not start out based on awareness. They do not start out based on timing. When he begins students, it's like he's just teaching them postures that make them extremely safe and difficult to deal with. And then he connects, there's like 5 of them. And then he teaches you transitional movements between those postures. Once you get those postures down, it's really hard for anyone to attack you while you're in a posture. Eventually, they'll break it down and force you to move and transition, and you quickly transition to another posture. So they call it like trench fighting. Like you're fighting out of a trench, and it's really hard to attack you in the trench, but you can't attack either.
So it's not like I think people probably get gummied up on the words. Like it's defensive, as in they're
not
attacking.
Self-defensive,
I need
no.
to, or like they're attacking. I need to defend. It's more like understanding the power of different positions, and from a physics standpoint, which I like because Ralston does like that from zero. How is a body built? How do the physics actually work? Like, why does this work? Because physics. Not because anybody said so, not because people think it's a nifty, keen thing to do, but it's like, no, because fucking physics. Like, you got 2 arms, 2 legs, the body functions a certain way. If you take a posture like this, you're going to be very challenged. Somebody's not going to submit you.
It'd be like, I could like really suck at boxing and survive for a little while just by doing this.
Yeah, like that, because physics.
Because
anyway, I just
blast,
because
you have to blast through my arms to get to my chin, and if I've got a pretty good chin, and if I can keep my chin glued down into my chest, and I can cover up the majority of my head, and just kind of keep a good posture and good stance, I can take a lot of shots, much more so than doing this.
Yeah.
Right. Even though eventually you want to just be able to drop your hands and move, right? So this is like the equivalent of that. So when you start out, you want to take this extremely defensive posture that makes it very, very hard for anyone to even begin to, like, timing is not an issue. But then as you play more and more, you want to attack too. So you have to start opening up. And if you look at like Britt Mickelson, he doesn't ever assume those deep postures anymore. That's just what he teaches like his beginners to do. He plays turtle with his elbows way out. He's out here. He's playing a different game, but it's because he's gone on and he's in that place of timing and knowing what is going to happen and so forth that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think there's an addition, like with guys that I've played with that are good, they're comfortable and they can relax because they understand, like, oh, if I take this position, there's no threat yet. And so they'll just chill and they'll respond when they know that something is getting towards becoming threatening, and or they know like what the prerequisites are for a threat to even arise. And so they're usually just like chilling out in positions, and they don't really have to. They're like just hanging out, waiting, because they know they're good where they are. For example,
have you also noticed, if you're rolling with somebody who's good, that their attention to detail is like they're like a coiled spring. They're like a cat ready to pounce. Like a competitive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player is ready to, they like detect the tiniest weakness and immediately exploit it.
Yeah. I mean, coiled spring doesn't work for me because they're usually like pretty calm about it. But yeah, as soon as something's there, they take it, and they know all these details. Like, oh, if I take my foot and I move it from here to, just up by their knee or something and then hook it out, there's a whole range of stuff that can't happen because they've locked that down and they know that in their body. So then it does take on like a different quality. Like, for example, the guy, when I roll with a teacher of the class I was just in, he taught some rubber guard stuff, and then I actually managed to get him partway into one of the beginnings of what he taught during the class, which I was proud of myself. But he shut it down really fast because he knew where to put his legs in relationship to my legs and the position and postures to take to just close it down. Even though I had part of the position, he was taking positions sensitively. Like he knew the keys. It's like a complex puzzle sometimes for me. It's like, and there's like the guys that don't know squat. They're all over the map, and the guys who are really good, it's like really refined down. They know exactly where to put this, exactly where to put their foot, exactly where to put their weight, adjust their head, direction. There's a whole bunch. It's very complex and sensitive. Like I love rolling with the guys like that because I can feel that they're extremely sensitive and they know. And then to, a nod to 10th Planet. Like every time I go there, they're very they're relaxed. Like the guy's not spazzing out. He doesn't have something to prove. He was better than me, but we just, I liked feeling how he made transitions and he was smart about it and just, it was good, as opposed to these like other places where people are, well, animals.
Yeah.
I'm okay with animals. I'm not saying I'm not okay with it. It just, I'd rather roll with the guys that got the skills like that because I don't, like when I'm training and rolling, I go as soft as I possibly can and try to rely on my positioning and my minimal strength, maximum efficiency.
Right.
And so I can learn that rather than like smash and
yeah. I had a dream about it last night that I found another school to train in because the school that I train in, when I get beat, it's usually by someone who's just they've got some decent skill, but they are relying on a lot of strength and athleticism. Yeah. And they're very strong and they smash. And I just don't want to get beat that way. Like I understand, like if it depends on the goals, but it's not in my interest to get smashed on unnecessarily. So
yeah. And there's an art to dealing with big guys. I haven't cracked that code yet in the grappling world. But I just remember some like basic technical stuff. Like I used to roll in San Francisco, and this guy is big, strong, and really flexible in the hips. And if I got in his guard, I'd be dead. So I started realizing, wait a minute, don't go in there and then just go in there. Stick a knee up for God's sakes. And then he can't close his legs. And then the default position for that is like knee up. Why would I go?
Yeah.
And this is just like a small piece, but like stuff like that, I feel like there's a lot more of an understanding that can occur about like the shapes that I'm taking with my body ahead of time, not just going into a position just because.
I don't know if I can do it here in this format, but I'm going to try. I'm going to stand up.
Yeah.
And just show you what I mean on one side. When like imagine I'm in my guard, right? Or I'm in like open guard. When
elbows
I'm in open
to the hips.
Yeah, I'm like you can like my elbow should be dug in here all the time, and my turtle is the same way. And like as soon as something starts to get out of, I'm right back in.
Yeah.
And I'm playing much more open now, but not like Britt Mickelson, not at all. But I'm playing more open than that. But I was experimenting with that for a while, and I continue to, and it can really help. It's just like it's like oh, boxing doesn't. I don't get pounded if I cover my chin. If I do this. I don't usually box like this anymore, but but for a while there, it was like keep your hands up. That's helpful. Protect your chin. Keep your chin down.
Yeah.
And who knew? And it was like a little bit it's like really, really obvious. It's like when I said I think that keeping your underhooks to yourself is the equivalent of keeping your chin tucked in boxing.
Mm-hmm.
It's that fundamental. It's just like that should be like pretty much the first thing. Is like anytime somebody passes your guard, they don't get to flatten you out for free, and they don't get their underhooks. Like you see all these tutorials where, oh, I pass his guard and I immediately dive in for an underhook and a crossface, and it's like, no, you don't. You don't get an underhook and a crossface.
Yeah.
I don't care if you pass my legs. I'm not giving you an underhook and a crossface, and I don't care if you're a black belt. You have to make that happen. That is not coming for free. That I don't know. I just watched a bunch of guys, including Britt Mickelson, talk about that and kept working on it, and I think it's cool. And then you can build kind of out of it and get more open up, and then you know where to come back in if you need to.
Yeah, because I got that, like another guy I like, Ryan Hall.
Yes.
I like
brilliant.
listening to the way he speaks about it. It's like, yeah, that's just fucking, he knows. He's like, yeah, people got 2 arms and 2 legs. I'm like, this is somebody who understands the body thing. It's like, yeah, physics, man, physics. And then I feel like I'm recognizing a couple possibilities that I'm recognizing for me, say if I'm going forward, understanding, I feel like there's a gap in my understanding of like what's what. And what I mean by that is, why is an underhook bad? And feeling why it's bad.
Well, because
And,
for several reasons. So like if you just look at submissions, right? If you just look at submissions, one of the most common submissions is the elbow. The most common submission is the neck.
yeah.
Okay? But rarely does somebody get choked. They do get choked. They're guillotines. But most chokes involve the establishment of at least an underhook, and often hooks in the legs, like taking the back. So if you just deny underhooks and hooks into your legs, you've already taken out most chokes.
Except for head and arm.
Head and arm, yeah. There are some that
But I guess
it
that's,
doesn't.
they're underhooking you with their neck then, and their head.
Yeah.
So that's
So
still controlling this and this.
Right. So you have a lot of attacks on the neck that they cannot happen. Physically impossible without at least one underhook. Arm bars cannot happen until you get your body under here.
Right. So again, it's controlling the space underneath the arm.
Right. Kimuras, Americanas, omoplatas happen with control under here. Okay? You need to attack the elbow, the shoulder, and the neck almost always by establishing an underhook. Deny the underhook, and you have cut down all the upper body submissions, the number that are possible, tremendously.
Yeah.
That's why it's important. It's like, knock a dude out, when you might be able to hit him, and it sucks, but knock a dude, like actually knock him out, when he's completely covered his chin, he's totally balled up, and he sees it coming, and he's just kind of rolling with it.
Yeah, you gotta, right away I'm like, yeah, gotta switch to the body, but that's a different deal.
Of course, and this does not stop the legs. Like you have to do other stuff to protect your legs.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for everything, and it's not a perfect strategy. It's just covering your chin, and you're right. Like it doesn't work for everything.
Yeah. But that's a moot point since we're focused on knocking the guy out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then with like getting put on your back, if you're kind of up at a 45-degree angle, it's hard to get most attacks on your upper body again. Like people get arm bars on you when you're flat on your back usually. Okay? People get chokes on you when they're behind you. people sometimes get Americanas and Kimuras when you're like at a 90-degree angle, like
Mm-hmm.
kind of on a shoulder. It gets hard. Like certain angles just kill a lot of attacks. It just makes them really, really awkward to get.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it
And
would be like discovering what those angles are.
except you don't have to, because other people have been working on this for a shit ton of time, and they can just tell you about it, and you can look at it, and then you can experiment. You can find out for yourself pretty quickly.
Right.
And I think that's something that's really awesome about combat sports. Um, Grappling or any combat sport where there's a defined set of rules allows for a lot of people to pour their minds into that activity and to test those ideas over and over again at multiple levels of resistance and skill, all the way up to the best in the world. And you watch, and the game changes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like a science experiment. Like modern day grappling is like a massive science experiment that's going on all the time with like researchers, basically.
Yeah.
It's cool. So you don't feel like compelled to reinvent the wheel. Like start with some good systems. Check out like who's really good at different stuff. John Donahar says this. He says like, dude, don't just go with what I say. Cross-reference the best of the best. If you're interested in a like guard passing or whatever, look at people who guard pass really well, who have a similar body size to you and a similar general disposition, and cross-reference, and then figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just talking from like an investigation standpoint. Like if I was to, like in order to progress, it would be useful to really get like what's the essence of that? What is the essence of an underhook and why? Not from a technical standpoint, but like from a, consciousness perspective, or like really wondering about it, trying to get like why it works, understanding it. Does that make sense? Like the principles
Yeah.
that have it working, which you started to talk about, I think, or the dynamics
The
involved.
dynamics, certainly the dynamics. Yeah.
Because it's like
I
it
think
doesn't matter what kind of body you have. I mean, within reason.
I was playing with my son this weekend, and I was doing some, like, we wrestle we wrestle a lot whenever he's around, and he's only 6 years old almost, so it's not like a challenge for me in any kind of normal way.
Yeah.
But I locked down his legs, kind of Khabib style. And he goes, "You're forcing me into a mermaid position," because I like kind of crossed his legs and kind of locked him down. And I asked him, I go, "Would a mermaid be good? Would they have a good guard game?" And he goes, "No." And he thought it was really funny because for him, the guard is really simple. It's like, never let daddy past your knees. Like that's his whole game. It's just like he just does everything to keep me from passing his knees, and he uses levers, like Ryan Hall you were talking about. Like he uses, sticks and levers, and he just constantly just readjusts them because he just has this couple ideas. Like one of them is just, don't let him pass my knees. Don't let him pass my knees.
Yeah.
And he ends up spinning and doing all this cool stuff to stop it. And yeah, it's fun. I don't know if it's a principle, but it's definitely like a dynamic that has to do with the human body, and even a little kid can learn it and apply it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another area of skill that I think is needed to be really good is an understanding of like for example, we did like chains of events that happen. Like I did some judo, and it was never like I just grab the dude and I can just throw him with one big throw, because they can always stuff that. But if I get something going, a little bam, then something works out. And I think the same in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There's a place where, all right, good. attack them, which then forces a response. And then if they respond this way, I've got something. If they respond that way, I've got something. If they respond like this, I know what to do. And so I can I can force them to do something, which is to say, I get in a position and I know something's coming and it's on them. And now I've got the whole thing buttoned up because they go here, I nail them. They go here, I go here, then I nail them. I go here, then I get,
Yeah.
So then I think like the good guys, again, when I roll with them, it's like that. They know if I put him in this position, I know what he's about to do. He's got to do this next thing, and I'm ready for it because I know it, and I know where he needs to be, or she, or whomever it is.
Yeah.
And so I think stacking up a bunch of those is crucial. It's like I have a couple of them mapped out, but I have to map them out more. And what I mean by map it out is map it out in the body mind. Like the body needs to know what to do with a feeling. Like that's another skill place.
I'm excited about that too. Next year, I want to spend all my time with one of the groups I train with, studying a couple systems. And one of the systems that I want to study has got to be a stand-up system for throwing. And I think what I'd like to do is study probably one of John Donahar's systems for throwing. I've been taking a look at it. We've started implementing some of it, and eventually work our way back into Cheng Shin throwing from there. And I've heard you describe what you were saying about judo before, where one technique might not work. In fact, it usually won't work. It's usually after like a series of setups that allow for that technique to work. And I've been studying one beginner system that John Donahar has put together called Feet to Floor, Volume 1. And it's all like that. It's like you have a few basic attacks, but what you're doing is you're constantly forcing them to adapt to one attack, which makes them vulnerable to this other attack that you can easily get to. And you don't have like two, you have multiples. And it's like a 1-2 punch. It's like if the left one don't get you, the right one will, and vice versa.
Yeah, and I think there's ways to train to understand that. And then, what am I trying to say? It's like train to... Yeah, I don't know, chains. That's the word I use, like chain things together. Oh, right, like being able to do something and then like within the doing of the thing, you already have the other options ready so that when like here I go, and then if I run into it, if there's no resistance, good, I just throw them. But if I go and they resist, I can change right into this other thing. Like it's that ability to be changeable.
That's an offensive cycle. Yeah, that's an offensive cycle, and it really helps if you know what
like there's
techniques.
Pathways.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that's where I see like the technical training come in, because I've got this throw down, but if I got this with that resistance, now my body might be awkward if I've never trained those positions. Like how do I get into that position? So that's where like the drilling comes in. Like train this, put the foot here, move the weight there, slip in sideways, drop them back, catch the foot, drop them back. And I have to like get my body to be able to do that. And then there's the art of applying it in combat. That's a different deal. Yeah.
Do you feel like you've mapped any of that out in Cheng Shin Tuishao?
Yes, some stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you have setups where you could create almost like like a jiu-jitsu flow chart, but oriented towards the stand-up game of Cheng Shin Tuishao?
I could probably make one.
I'll bet you could. I'll bet you would have to like tweak it, but I'll bet you could. And I'll bet Peter has probably done it in different ways.
I don't think he makes flows like that, but he knows them. The way he's described his experience, like when he's playing, is he's like, well, I'll just do something. But then while from that, he's got like 5 options. And so he'll start something, that's not working, he changed, that's not working, he changed, that's not working, change, done. So he'll have the whole technique spread out in front of him, like I don't know, here's a throw, oh, that doesn't work, how about we roll to this one? That's not working, we roll to this one. How about bam?
Yeah.
And that's how he works with that. And then either one, and then also it's like if somebody's attacking, I can join it. We'll join here. That doesn't work. Here, down. And so, like, almost in that case, it doesn't matter what they do because I'm joining with what's going on, or he's joining with it, which is to say, follows it, takes it over. You want to go here? Nope. Here? Nope. Here? Nope. Here? Down. And he can do that.
But he has to have, along with that, like a sense of advantage, disadvantage. Because he has to join it in a way which is advantageous for him in an adversarial relationship.
Right. So in the Twee show, it's there's a constant, like that's what the yielding is for, is constantly neutralizing anything. So like the Gracies are like, you can be uncomfortable in, what is it, any situation?
Discomfortable, or you can be comfortable in discomfort.
Something like, or comfortable in, so there are no more uncomfortable situations or something like that, where, which I'm drawing a parallel between that and say yielding, which is to say it doesn't matter what they do because I can neutralize everything. Yeah. Then I am comfortable no matter what. Okay, attack me. The mindset switches from, if you attack me, oh no, to go ahead. I don't care what you do. Please.
Yeah.
And
I'm interested.
And then while that happens, I turn it to my advantage.
Yeah.
And if they change, I change. And so it doesn't, because I'm like the water. They can't impact the water.
Yeah.
That's what the yielding does. And then now it's way fluid. Of course, it only works in the domains that it works. Again, like if it changes when somebody grabs you, it's a different game. If it's striking, still very fluid, but again, different game. You know, the pushy, yieldy stuff on the feet is different. But my point is the base is already there. The neutralizing is already there. There's no uncomfortable situations. All situations are welcome. That's the basis. And now it's like, how would you like me to destroy you? And you let them tell you. They reach in. I know what to do with this. You want to go this way? We'll go this way. I'll throw you down. You change. I'll change. Flip you that way. I'll change. I'll go bam. So it's like a different way, but the quality is feeling the possibilities and these windows of opportunity opening and closing. And it's like here's something. Boom. Here. And then if I slow it down, I'm repeating myself at this point. It's like here's something. That's not working anymore. Change, here's something else. Oh, that's not working anymore. Something else. But fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so in grappling, I think it's similar where and this is not my area of expertise. I'm better than your average bear, I would say that, but probably, definitely not the top. There's places of advantage and disadvantage. It's very sticky, so I can't move like I can't move freely. But there are things that can be done to force a situation, and then when they react, I know what's about to happen, and I can react them right into a trap. See, and I think that's good. That's a good place to be.
Sometimes.
Oh, sorry. Quick pause there. So the parallel I'm drawing with that is the sensitivity that is in the Cheng Shin Twee show could be in the grappling, where it's in those moments where there's a reaction and a transition. It's like it gets fluid for a moment, like much more fluid, and it has to be able to change, follow, lead, join it, grab it. End up in a new place, which is better, knowing that's about to happen, so that when stuff goes fluid, I can
Yeah.
go with it
Yeah.
and take
And
advantage.
it's more fluid more often in no gi than in gi.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Um, that talk about fluidity and sensitivity and changeability had me thinking about movement. You know, like there are different people who are very good at movement in different kinds of ways.
yeah,
Like Ido Portal is famous, and other people are really good at that.
yeah.
And I John Donahar, he put out a free solo training system video, you know, and it's all about movement for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I think that one of the prerequisites for the kind of mobility and changeability that you're talking about is the ability to actually move well
Hmm.
and in ways that are actually applicable to the activity in question.
Yeah,
And a lot of the kind of movement that is necessary for basic things like elbow escapes is really not available to a lot of people who practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on a like hobby level. And
really?
yet an elbow escape, oh yeah, totally. I think a lot of people that practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on at a hobby level, they, at least for a while, they don't really understand the fundamental movement of the body to just do an elbow escape. They struggle with it.
Hmm.
You haven't experienced
Hmm.
that?
I don't know. Well, yeah, yeah. Well, in a certain sense, I think so. Because when I watch people doing warm ups, I'm like, oh, they don't move very good. They're
Yeah,
awkward. They're clunky. They don't have
yeah,
efficiency. It's
and they
like
don't
it's not
know
smooth.
why they're moving they don't know what, they don't have a sense of purpose, and they don't know what parts of their bodies to engage in
Yeah.
and what not to. They don't have clear objectives. So like shrimping is just this warm up drill to just kind of like finish so that the class can start. Whereas like shrimping is actually a fundamental movement and needs to be explored and understood deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows for you to do so much. And bridging is the same way. Like shrimping and bridging and hip heisting and even things like butt scooting and standing up. I work with my students a lot on just standing up effectively. Like
Mm-hmm.
rolling and falling, yes, but in Cheng Shin, you roll and fall, and we generally allow the partner to stand up,
Yeah.
and the game resumes. But in grappling, there's no luxury like that.
Yeah.
You roll and fall, and it's your job to get up, and he's going to do everything he can to hold you down.
Yeah.
So how do you get back to your feet? This is really important, and if you're not efficient at doing it without somebody pressing you down, you're never going to be good at it when somebody is pressing you down.
True.
You'll always suck at it. So I think developing really good mobility that's applicable for the activity, and um, that you understand intellectually and somatically, you
Yeah.
know, is super important, and something that's not just good for martial arts, it's also just good for you. It's like it's just good for the body and mind to move efficiently and well and in a way that's actually beautiful. Uh,
Yeah.
it's great, even for people that are like, yeah, I'm never even going to compete. I just like this sport. It's fun, and I want to do something that's good for me. Learn movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Plug some Chang Shin right here. This is where you would want to do that. Just saying.
oh, 100%. Yeah. In fact, so like, um, to keep plugging, you know, someone you and I are both acquainted with, she wants to start teaching Cheng Shin body being, like offering Cheng Shin body being.
Yeah. Chang Shin body
Uh,
being would be the thing to do for sure.
and I've been exploring like how does Cheng Shin body being relate to jujitsu and grappling from the perspective of being in positions like guard and getting into positions like turtle and just standing up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just getting to your knees and getting to a foot and getting up to 2 feet and escaping someone that's doing everything they can to take your back and sweep you.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's fun because um, in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community, a lot of them are still very into like never expose your back, never turn your back. And yet more and more you see some top level guys exposing their back with some regularity and getting away with it because they've incorporated stuff from wrestling, and wrestlers do turn their back because their whole thing is don't get their back to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they'd rather expose their back than have their back put on the ground. And they're really good at getting back to their feet once you put them there, because their whole thing is do not stay on the ground. I want to put you on the ground. I don't want to be on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a whole skill set in the wrestling sports that have been well developed for a long, long time, going back to like ancient Greece and multiple civilizations that have contributed a lot that are really good. And that's why a lot of the best fighters in the MMA have a wrestling background.
Yeah.
And sometimes the wrestlers can learn enough Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to be hyper competitive in that environment. Whereas pure Jiu-Jitsu practitioner might need to like high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners have to have some wrestling.
Right.
Whereas high-level wrestlers don't have to have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, or at least not as much or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. It sounds reasonable.
What's I've been telling people this, and maybe I'm like, I don't think I'm ignorant, and I don't think but I think I'm uninformed. If there's a difference. But
Yeah.
I've been giving it some real thought, and I'd be willing to take everything that doesn't include striking, including Ching Shin Tui Shao, and wrestling, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or no-gi grappling, and just put it into one activity that I would call like the verb, like some verb, like grappling is a verb. And if you just give a rule set and you say, okay, like put someone on the ground and submit them. Okay, do something that would actually break them, or where they have to tap or
Yeah.
choke them out, right? And you can use projections. You can launch someone if you want to. Okay, it's totally feasible. Then you just have this open sort of possibility of stuff that people can do, and what distinguishes something like Ching Shin Tui Shao from like modern no-gi grappling is really the tradition, the art, the culture, but nothing inherent to no-gi grappling stops people from putting Ching Shin, from bringing their experience of Ching Shin into that activity, or vice versa. Nothing stops people from doing grappling,
I'm a little bit
bringing it into
confused.
Ching Shin.
What are you saying? Because I'm like, they already have that. Like that's available, but what are you saying? I think I'm missing what you're saying.
I guess I'm saying that I think that the differences between different martial arts are pretty they're illusions. If you get right down to the activity itself, like the difference between judo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a rule set. If you get right down to the activity itself, the difference between Ching Shin Tui Shao and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a rule set. Like if you just said into your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all right, guys, no more effort. Just stop with the effort. You have to stop. You cannot use physical
Right,
strength.
no more strength. You have to use minimal strength. You know, it changes the whole game.
Yeah, you have to.
What
This
you're
is a
saying?
new rule set. This is a new rule. We're not doing no more like muscling through it. It has to be pure skill. All right. And you clearly define what that means, what muscling means. And voila, you just created Ching Shin Tui Shao. Now, now maybe they wouldn't have all the distinctions of various principles and dynamics, but if they took it seriously and they were competitive and they kept going, you can bet they'd start developing them, right?
Yeah.
Because you'd have minds applied to the same activity.
So
And
maybe when
and
you say rule set, like it's not like rules like in a certain way, but it is rules. It's like more like operational principles or something like that.
it's agreed upon objectives and definitions. It's like
Yeah.
if you decide that the victory is going to happen with
Based on these criteria.
based on
Like
these
how
criteria.
effortless you were, how
Yeah,
little
if you just
pressure got on your body, then the whole thing changes. Yeah.
yeah, if you decide that it cannot, like, things don't count if you use physical strength, then the incentives for activity change.
That's
If
right.
people are not allowed to do that because it's like, oh, you lose. I don't care if you got him down, you lost,
Yeah.
right? Then it's like, okay, well, if I want to play the game, I have to play the game,
Yeah. Play that
right?
game.
Yeah. So the agreements define the activity
Mm-hmm.
and incentivize certain activity.
Yeah.
And um, I think that that's really, really wild. It's like you can create anything and you
Yeah.
can incentivize almost any kind of activity and
Yeah.
you can create whole worlds.
Yeah, and something that I think could be empowering here is then if that's the case, then one could question, well, what things could I incentivize that would make a difference?
Yeah.
Like if I were to incentivize this, what would happen? Map it out. If I were, well, what if I change it? What if I incentivize something else? What outcomes occur? What outcomes do I want to have occur? And what incentives could I put in place that would bring that about? Like all these questions could arise that would help somebody, I think. Like I listen to a lot of stuff on business, and there's a saying in business, you have to go in 6 minutes.
Actually, a little bit less than that. 'Cause I'm
Okay,
gonna take
good,
yeah.
perfect. What gets measured fuck. The stuff you measure is what gets. God damn it! I forgot fucking. I forgot the. It's like what gets measured. The shit that you measure is what ends up being in your business. So if you measure your business based on numbers, then people are going to be incentivized to go for those numbers. But if you measure your business, the example is based on like how many thank you cards you get from the transaction. Now the whole business changes.
Yeah, it's about getting thank you cards.
Yeah, and it's about doing business, and then if you get a thank you card, then that what gets tracked gets put in there. So like the same kind of thing, if you measure it based on effortlessness, now you have an art that is highly incentivized towards effortlessness, and it's going to go a completely different direction than an art that is like, well, go beat the guy.
Right.
And then strength and aggression and speed will be like the main focuses, less skill. Can I beat him? What works quickly for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
And
Oh, go ahead.
okay. I guess I could just. I get fired up about this stuff. I get excited about it. I feel yeah. There's definitely a nerdy
Oh, yeah.
like
Oh, yeah,
willingness
nerd.
to get into the thickets of this stuff. And I also I'm not any kind of expert. I don't think so. I just feel like there's probably like you, I just feel like there's certain things that I have a
You
sense
do
of.
have a lot of expertise. I mean, think about it.
There's some stuff that I feel like I have a pretty good handle
Yeah.
on, but even the things that I feel like I have the best handle on, I know that there are other people who have a better handle on those very same things. See what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
may not be able to teach it. They may or may not be able to share,
Mm,
but they can definitely do it.
yeah.
Or articulate clearly.
Yeah. Buddy, this was awesome.
All right, dude.
Yep.
Sounds good. Till next time. I'll be in touch
Sounds good.
because I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, and you got to go. So, all right, man.
All right.
See you later.
Peace.